Alright, let's get down to brass tacks. There's a CG in Colonia, and you want to be there. Or you're watching this in the future and just want to get to Colonia for the exclusive ship engineering and streamlined suit engineering. But it's 22,000 light years away, and the longest jump range for a ship is under 100. Ain't nobody got time for 250 jumps in a row. FSD charge-up time is 10 seconds, so is FSD cooldown, and witch space takes on average about 13 seconds by my testing during times of low server load. Add on about 5 seconds of fuel scooping per jump and you can expect each jump to take about 40 seconds minimum, but the generally accepted ballpark is 1 minute per jump for long distance journeys. Well, you don't need to take 250 jumps, in fact you can make it in about 50, maybe less. You might have thought that it would take like 6 hours to get out there, but done correctly you can make this run in under an hour. I mean, I have never made it that fast, but it's been done. The example run I recorded for this video took 1 hour and 6 minutes from pad to pad, and I did this using the Neutron Superhighway. The concept is pretty simple. Have a ship with a fuel scoop and then hang out in a neutron star's jet cone for a few seconds to get a 4 times range bonus to your next jump. In practice, there are many additional things that get in the way of actually making use of that additional range, most particularly how to plot a route, so strap in and we'll cover it from top to bottom. These principles will also carry you anywhere you want to go throughout the galaxy, so it's an important thing to know. This is probably the first time that the average pilot has been expected to reach Colonia. I've been there more times than I can remember, but it's kind of a try-hard thing. Thoroughly optional content, as it should be, but in the modern day it is way easier than it used to be so long as you follow the right steps. We'll start with having the right ship. The Caspian Explorer is the ship you should use. It's built specifically for using the Neutron Highway, and gets a 6 times range bonus from neutron stars instead of 4. And it has a really fat fuel tank and a very strong FSD. If you can't afford the 400 million credit price tag, then you can use a fully souped up Mandalay, but the build is much more engineering intensive, and will get there somewhere between 25 and 50% slower. A Mandalay will really want a pre-engineered FSD, which means scumming a Titan drive component as well as 18 data-mined wake exceptions, among other things. But the Caspian can just use an FSD that you can buy for credits, although it still needs long-range mass manager engineering. You will also need a fuel scoop, and if you're using the Mandalay you will need AFMUs, but the Caspian can get to Colonia without needing to repair its FSD. If money is tight, you can do this unengineered for pretty cheap in a Mandalay, Diamondback Explorer, or Hauler, but oh boy, the travel time is not going to even be comparable. If you want exact builds, I'll link them in the description, but just treat them as a guideline. Oh yeah, I should probably also mention the Blue Star line. Less important these days now that we have fleet carriers and colonization, but there are 3 outposts and 3 Ocellus starports situated along the distance between the Bubble and Colonia. Places of safe harbor in the void if you want to make the trip in shorter jaunts. Albeit, there really isn't anything stopping you from just logging out in deep space. That's always safe. In practice, the Blue Star Line and the Colonia Connection Highway are just there for repairs and restock if you absolutely need them. Use Inara to find the closest starport to you, should the worst happen. Now that we have a ship with a long jump range and a fuel scoop, we need to plot a route. You cannot do this with the galaxy map. The game's pathfinding algorithm is insufficient for optimizing such long-distance journeys using jet cone boosts, on top of which Colonia is beyond the farthest range that the system can even accommodate. Instead, we'll go to spanch.co.uk. This website has 2 options for accomplishing what we're looking for. The Neutron plotter is a brute force option that only needs to know 2 things: your jump range and whether or not you are flying a Caspian that has a range bonus. It will then generate a route to get there in the least jumps based on the information it has available. But there's a fairly large asterisk in that the Neutron plotter really does not care how much fuel you are using for these jumps, and so you will need to manually track your current fuel levels and go off the listed track in order to fuel scoop. This means that you can expect to spend several additional jumps than what is listed, and your travel time will end up a bit inflated. The somewhat confusing galaxy plotter is the Neutron plotter, but with a lot of additional back-end math optimizing the ever-loving hell out of the route in a variety of ways. It keeps track of your current fuel level per jump and will therefore be able to make longer jumps as your tank runs dry, which means fewer jumps overall. But it will also schedule dedicated refuel stops, so you not only don't have to worry about getting stranded, you will not need to depart from the listed route in order to fill up. The drawback to the Galaxy Plotter is that it needs to know exactly what your ship build is, and that means paperwork. You need to do one of two things. The first is to go to EDSY or Coriolis and enter in your build pound for pound. I prefer EDSY for having a more intuitive UI in my opinion. Once your build is duplicated exactly, you can click Export and then copy the SLEF field and paste it into the field in the Galaxy Plotter. Also make sure to save your build on EDSY or Coriolis for later. The other way is to export your current ship build directly from the game using the game's API through a third-party tool. Elite Dangerous Market Connector is a pretty lightweight app that can communicate your in-game data with websites like this quite easily. If you are in-game and you have EDMC running and authenticated, and you have EDSY or Coriolis authenticated, you can click Import and it will suck down your exact current build for you to use as you see fit. Currently, after importing my build exactly, there is a slight discrepancy between my in-game max range and the range listed in EDSY, and I can't seem to fix it, but it's a sub 1% margin of error and doesn't usually cause problems. Now that we have our current build pasted into the Galaxy Plotter, we have our current and destination systems input in the correct fields, and we have made sure that the route setting is set to optimistic, we can hit Generate Route, and the site will chew on the data for a minute. This can take a while, but be patient. It is doing a lot of complex math in the background, and more importantly, it is doing it for free. Thank you, Gareth Harper, for being one of the spindly little pillars of passion project programmers keeping this titanic entity afloat, like in that one XKCD comic. Once your route is generated, click View Route. This is an important but easily forgotten part of the process. Basically, sometimes the route generated can glitch and send you wildly off the mark, and visually inspecting the route will let you know when this happens. It's very rare, but I'm still salty about that one time that I for some reason spent 2 hours driving away from the bubble because the route decided that it needed to go to Sagittarius A star first. As long as every part of the journey is loosely in the direction of your destination, you are good to go. Neutron stars are more common above or below the galactic plane, which means that the first part of any journey will be going up or down for a while before being able to properly merge with the Neutron highway. It's also worth noting that neutron density scales with star density, so routes traveling between spiral arms or along the outer rim will be very inefficient. But routes traveling along spiral arms or through the ultra-dense galactic core will be very well optimized. It's for this reason that the return trip from Colonia is always faster, because Colonia starts out in a high-density region. Now that we have a route plotted and we've checked it for discrepancies, we can get on our way. Click Hide Search in order to free up screen real estate for the spreadsheet, and now I get to reveal why this video is in super widescreen. Right side, wow. See burp hit? I can do it too. I use a vertical monitor next to my main monitor for checking the web, Neutron plotting, using screen capture software, and looking at boobs and stuff while playing a game or watching content on my horizontal screen. This has proven to be pretty ideal for the purposes of Neutron Highway running, as having the screen to the right side allows for very easy usage of the spreadsheet itself as I am navigating. It also lets me show you the entire process at the same time, without having to splice things together. If you don't have a second monitor, which most of you won't, just learn to love using Alt-Tab or the Windows key. For VR players, the process of navigating between the game and Spanch is going to vary wildly depending on your preferred headset, and I really only know how to do it with panels on the Quest 2, so I'm afraid you'll have to find your own workflow. The first few jumps on a route are usually non-neutron jumps and will usually be scoopable stars. Click the Copy to Clipboard icon next to the name on the last non-neutron star, and then use an in-game automated route to go to it. Once you're there, scoop your tank to full and then set your next destination as the next stop on the list, which will be a neutron star. If you do not see neutron stars on your galaxy map, make sure that you have your filtering set to all possible star types. If you have limited your routing to only KGB foam, then you will need to undo that before you can progress. With a full tank, we'll jump to the Neutron star, and this is where the cycle begins. First, target the Neutron star. This is important because targeting the Neutron star will impose a limiter on your supercruise velocity. This next maneuver is very finicky and difficult to pull off if your velocity is not limited in this way. Second, attempt to align yourself with the jet cone facing away from the core of the star. We need to spend a certain amount of time in the jet cone, and once we enter, we cannot decelerate. So in order to maximize the chance of getting a full supercharge before we are bucked from the cone like a wild horse, we need to take a shallow entry at a relatively low speed. However, it can also be too shallow, and then you just bounce off of the surface. And that's a mistake I make a lot. Ideal speed for this appears to be under 10 megameters a second, preferably under 5 if you can manage it without wasting too much time. Once you are going above 2 but below 10 megameters a second and you are aligned with a shallow entry to the jet cone, then you can open your galaxy map. Go over to your Spanch window, select the Neutron you are currently at as done, click the copy to clipboard icon for the next one. Paste the system into your galaxy map's search function and then wait. Done correctly, you will hear the COVAS say Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits, followed by Frameshift drive supercharged. Only when you hear Frameshift drive supercharged should you continue the process. If you do not hear supercharged after 5 seconds, exit the galaxy map and reattempt the maneuver. Now this is vitally important. Do not set a route to your next Neutron star. Automated routes will sometimes fail to make a jump possible or will inject an unnecessary jump before your destination. What you want to do is to set that star as your target instead. When you set the next star in your planned route as your target, your ship will take off the velocity limiter it currently has from targeting your current Neutron star and will rapidly escape the jet cone, which is why we only target the next Neutron in the chain after we have heard that our FSD is supercharged. This rapid escape of the jet cone is very handy if done correctly, but if you set your target before you are supercharged, then you may have to spiral back for a second pass. Turbulence in a jet cone is randomized, so even if you do everything correctly, you may still get thrown free. I sometimes go 100 jumps without getting bucked, but today it seemed to happen about 20% of the time. You always have bad luck when people are watching. Ironically, the fact that the Caspian handles so well makes its turbulence in the jet cone worse, as heavier ships like the Anaconda were more stable, or at least it always felt that way. If you didn't get the full supercharge, then trying to charge your FSD will issue a HUD warning that you are attempting to jump beyond your fuel limit, and you can check your status panel for your ship's current jump range to confirm whether or not you are supercharged. If you are supercharged, but the current jump is just a little bit beyond your current range, use Supercruise Overcharge to burn a bit of your fuel tank down until you have the range necessary. This is usually caused by a minor rounding error between Spanch and in-game, and ultimately should be solved by doing this. But exercise additional caution until your next refuel stop. Now, before we actually leave the galaxy map, we want to go to Spanch and select the system we are currently targeting as done, and then click the clipboard icon for the star after it. You'll see why in a moment. Charge your FSD and jump to the next star. Boom! Second Neutron star on the highway. Target the star, align with the jet cone with a low speed, open the galaxy map, paste your destination into the search, wait for the audio cue that you are supercharged,
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged.
and then target the next star. Set that star as done in Spanch and clipboard the star after it. Press escape 4 times to exit the galaxy map, and then charge your FSD.
Frameshift drive operating beyond safety limits. Frameshift drive supercharged. Frameshift drive charging.
Boom! Third neutron star on the highway. Target star, aligned jet cone, galaxy map, paste, wait, supercharged, target, done, clipboard, exit map, charge FSD, jump. Boom! Fourth neutron star on the highway. Eventually you will need to refuel. About every 8 jumps for a normal ship, about every 18 for a Caspian. The Galaxy Plotter is pretty good at finding systems that have both a neutron star and a scoopable star very close to each other when your tank is getting low. Scoop stops are shown on the list as yellow. Do not ignore them. But also, neutron stars that are in a relatively close orbit of another star are highly energetic and will have a crazy wide jet cone. Not only are these jet cones easier to scoop, but it's generally an indicator that you can fuel scoop from a nearby star in this system. Normal ships will also need to keep an eye on their FSD integrity. About every 20 jumps or 2 refuels, they will start to get non-critical FSD malfunctions which prevents them from jumping for a bit. This is caused by FSD integrity going below 80%. Every time you scoop a neutron star, the FSD is mildly damaged. The Caspian's FSD has incredible integrity, so this is legitimately a non-issue, and I have never had to repair it even once. But for everyone else, the fix is simple, if time-consuming. Find a safe place in deep-ish space and drop out of Supercruise. Shut down your engines and FSD and then boot up your autofield maintenance unit or units. Select the FSD for repairs and then wait for them to complete. Power down your AFMUs, power up your FSD and engines, and then carry on. You don't strictly need to power down your engines, but doing so frees up a lot of power for AFMUs to operate, which allows for much lighter builds to use the highway. It would be irresponsible of me to not cover emergency procedures. Neutron jumping is particularly vulnerable to black adder errors. That's the error code that is usually thrown when you disconnect from the server in Witchspace. Happens a lot during heavy player traffic periods. When this happens, you will log in having crashed into the neutron star's exclusion zone. Do not panic. Proper piloting can get you out of this with minimal, if any, damage. The main danger from being in a star's exclusion zone is heat. Exploration ships like to run colder power plants for ease in fuel scooping, but also because it reduces the danger of exactly this happening. If you are running a D-rated overcharged power plant to have the lightest possible ship, do not do that. Use A-rated armored. They run way colder and are barely heavier. In order to prove just how not dangerous this process is, I will show you myself doing this process with a hauler that has a 2D overcharged power plant. This thing overheats in ideal conditions. If it can survive a whoopsie with a pulsar, so can your ship. The first step is to target the neutron star, put your throttle to 0, and then use your compass to align yourself facing perfectly away from the star. This is your escape vector. You want to be facing this direction before you attempt to charge your FSD, as charging your FSD induces a thermal load, which your ship will struggle to dissipate under these circumstances. Turning while charging your FSD will likely just cause the charge sequence to be active for longer, ultimately dumping unnecessary heat into your system. If you are not currently boiling alive, and you really shouldn't be if you built your ship right, you can go into your systems panel and power down non-essential modules. FSD boosters, AFMUs, planetary vehicle hangars, vessel bays, fuel scoops, even your shield generator and your shield boosters. Doing this decreases passive power consumption, which makes your ship run colder. You only need your engines and FSD active to escape. This step is optional but can improve thermal performance and potentially prevent overheat damage. Now you will want to go to Supercruise. Going to high wake takes longer to charge the FSD. Low wake has a faster charge time, which means less thermal load overall. Not all exploration ships will necessarily be carrying heat sinks, but if there ever was a time to pop a sink, it would be right now. There is also the possibility that, for whatever reason, you drop out of Supercruise inside the jet cone. There is realistically no reason this should ever happen outside of egregious pilot error, and I've never actually done this before, so we learn in real time today, boys. As you can see, being in this circumstance is exceptionally not good. Constant hull damage and wild turbulence. You will also start to hear your panic farts leaking through the cracks in your ship's canopy. Not much you can do right away, as you need to wait out the FSD safety cooldown. But once that's run its course, you will want to attempt low wake, and then, if you are able, boost in order to align your trajectory with your heading. If your ship can't boost, hope you get lucky, I guess. This makes running absolutely stripped down jumpers like my Colonia Express slightly more dangerous to fly because they can't boost, but more ruggedized builds should have no problem. And that is basically the entire procedure of Neutron jumping, although I suppose there is one last thing to consider. For whatever reason, Neutron jumping takes an incredibly strong toll on your ship's integrity and paint job. Ship integrity needs to be fixed in advanced maintenance. It's not cheap, but it's not expensive. Letting integrity get down to 0% hampers your hull strength by about 25%, if I remember correctly, so it's not a great idea to let this go. The paint job, however, has no effect on anything, and many pilots simply like to let the paint rust down to 0% to showcase just how hard they've ridden their machines. Anyway, now you're in Colonia, you should do a couple things while you're here. First of all, be very careful of the mail slot at Jaques Station. Payne's Pleasure Cruises runs a constant train on that slot with non-stop beluga liners. Not only do they hog the slot all to themselves, but they love to get stuck in it permanently. Never take this docking procedure for granted. You are taking your life into your own hands. Also, yes, you may occasionally hear a French announcer over the docking bay loudspeaker, but Jaques himself is nowhere to be seen. The famous robot bartender who owns the whole station instead leaves the bar to be tended by some random lady. It was kind of an insult to injury thing back at the Odyssey launch. There are 4 suit engineers in Colonia, and 2 of them basically unlock themselves. Eleanor Bressa will be unlocked if you plant your feet on 5 separate outposts in Colonia, so just do a tour of some ground bases in the Colonia system, and the next time you log back in, you should get an invite. Baltanos is unlocked by reaching friendly with the Colonia Council. If you manage to get to Colonia without dying, I guarantee you that you have enough cartographic data to instantly hit allied with them. Just don't sell your data at Jaques Station. Try Colonia Orbital or Dove Enigma instead. The other 2 suit engineers are much more involved to unlock, and the data packets necessary are best found in the bubble. More information on that is available in my guide, Suit Engineering Made Easier. Some viewer comments have responded that they can no longer find anarchy government tourism settlements. I can find plenty on Nara myself, so I don't know if that's just a skill issue, but luckily fleet carrier bartenders are functional again, so you might have a lot more luck buying the data packets from other players. All of the ship engineers require you to have unlocked and reached a certain level of progression with an engineer in the bubble, so it's not exactly a sequence break, but the ship engineers in Colonia are way stronger than the ones back home, having more recipes that are also at higher grades. Mel Brandon will send you an invite for getting friendly with the Colonia Council, just like Baltanos, but he also wants you to hand in 100k in bounty vouchers. The screen says it has to be from a specific faction, but any will work. Just scum a few skills from the space cops in a high-res, it'll take you no time at all. Or if you don't even want to leave the pad, you can just hop in an easy mode terminal execution. You'll get bounty vouchers from your kills in that operation, and they'll probably work. Every new engineer means new pinned blueprints, and Mel Brandon is the only engineer to offer Grade 4 shield cellbank engineering. I recommend pinning Specialized for PvE and Rapid Charge for PvP. While you're at Mel's place, you can also buy some 1D shield generators. This is the only place you can buy these, and while they have a very niche use, such as a jump range maxed hauler, they are also dirt cheap, and you can ship them back from Colonia to the bubble for a very modest price, although the transfer will take almost a week. Marsha Hicks sends an invite for reaching Surveyor or higher in the Explorer ranks. You're in Colonia, odds are you're well past that. She unlocks for providing 10 units of osmium. This isn't nearly as difficult as you would think. Jaques Station orbits a gas giant that has rocky rings. Just buy any old ship from the station and go mining. Shouldn't take you more than an hour. I advise buying a Python or Type 8 and filling it with unengineered modules just for the stuff you need to do in Colonia. When you sell modules, you get 100% of your purchase price back, and when you sell a ship, you only lose 10% of the cost of the ship and any remaining modules. Any station can downgrade any core internal to E-rated, so you can basically treat ships like rentals in this game, so long as you don't engineer them. No polite way to put it, Jaques Station may be the premier station in Colonia, but its outfitting options are ass. They don't even sell collector limpets. Make do with whatever you can get your hands on, and use Inar's outfitting search for the rest. Hopefully colonization will zip this up in the near future. They do sell FSD boosters here, thank God. I used to have Marsha pinned for lightweight collector limpets, but after swapping that out with the Sarge back in the bubble, I now have Marsha pinned for grade 5 fuel scoop rate engineering. Expensive blueprint, thoroughly unnecessary, but 15% power draw in exchange for 50% faster scooping is crazy. Petra Olmanova will reach out to you if you are expert rank in combat or higher. This is probably the one rank requirement that a lot of you may not have. I know it's not high, but I also know that no small amount of people never touch combat if they can help it in this game. I was one of you for a long time. Petra unlocks if you donate 200 units of progenitor cells. These aren't hard to find, they are illegal in some systems though, so watch out. My recommendation for Petra's pinned blueprint is either heavy-duty armor or heavy-duty hull reinforcement, whichever you don't have pinned from Celine Jean. Etienne Dorn will give you a call if you are dealer rank in trade or higher. He's definitely the most painful to unlock, but it's worth it. Etienne Dorn is the only engineer to offer grade 5 lightweight life support. While statistically not essential, it is a much beloved optimization for exploration builds, and since life support modules can't have experimental effects put on them, it means that you will always be able to engineer your life support without visiting an engineer. Etienne wants you to donate 25 occupied escape pods. Yes, he wants you to hand over 25 living men, women, and children. Do not ask. To start, we want a ship with hatchbreaker and collector limpets and a decent-ish amount of cargo space. Occupied escape pods are not particularly easy to find, but the best method is to locate a shipwreck. If I remember correctly, there is one in Lutane, the same system as Mel Brandon. Head to Lutane A1 and then drop in on the distress call. This is a gameplay loop I have never done before and have never done since, but it's actually kinda cool. When you drop in, deploy hardpoints and use your data link scanner. Once it's done, go into your target panel and locate the escape hatches. Use your data link scanner on the hatches and then use the target menu to sub-target the limpet docking port. Then fire your hatchbreaker limpet and break them hatches. Unfortunately, there's a punchline. The pods constantly get stuck inside the actual geometry of the ship, and your limpets will get confused trying to free them. So I highly recommend individually targeting the occupied escape pods that are actually reachable, and sending collector limpets one by one to collect them and then instantly expire. This is also useful because there's a lot of junk around here that you don't want and your collectors will focus on instead. Eventually the hatch will stop spitting out pods, and that's when you do the frontier flop. Log out to the main menu and then log back in to refresh the spawns. I was able to get 25 occupied escape pods in about 15 minutes, while also writing this part of the script. If any loot actually worthwhile dropped from content like this, then the log to main menu trick would be just as bad as the old days of high-grade emissions. Ugh. Should you find yourself with more occupied escape pods than you needed, every base has a contact for search and rescue, and you can turn them in for a meager fee. Outside of engineering, Colonia has a few sights to see. The first are the Lagrange clouds. They are not strictly limited to Colonia, but there are more of them here than I've seen anywhere else. Listed in your nav panel as notable stellar phenomena, these clouds don't serve too much of a functional purpose, but to be a few check marks on your codex. The pay is hilariously bad, but you'll get 50k and a codex entry for every color of cloud you enter per galactic region, and for every unique type of extraplanetary life form you scan with your composition scanner. You can technically also probe them for sellable commodity, but that has always been a waste of time. Another site you may want to see is Colonia Applied Research. It's in the rings of the planet that Jaques Station is orbiting. I found this thing years ago and I've been dying to show someone. Get in on this before it's patched. Welcome to the back rooms, baby. Ain't it magical? Just bring a shield. Lastly, the core reason why you'd want to be in Colonia for any extended period of time is because it's near the core. Most of the star systems in the galaxy are near the core, which means it's the easiest pickings for first discovery exploration bonuses. Spit in the air and it'll land in an unexplored system. Not for lack of trying, but because there's just so many of them. The stars are so dense out here you could cut them with a space knife. Remember when I said that Superhighway travel is the most efficient way along the run of the galactic arm? Well, Colonia is conveniently situated along the galactic arm that would take you to the galactic core, Sagittarius A star. Not really much to do here but take photos, but should probably do it at least once just for the hell of it. Talk is in the air that Colonia is about to be opened up to the colonization effort. Although far from convenient, the prospect of a second true bubble being added to the game is genuinely exciting. Oh yeah, I guess you can get out to Colonia on a fleet carrier taxi, but hopefully you don't miss your boat back, or else you'll be needing to follow this guide anyway.